Well, everyone, it's finally here, my very first story. This story is called The Mandarin Duck, and I am so excited to read it to you. Do you know what a Mandarin Duck is? Well, if you don't, that's okay, because I'm here to tell you. A Mandarin Duck is a duck with beautiful different coloured feathers and an orange beak. But a Mandarin Duck is not like the duck you see in a lake or in a pond at the park. And that was Mandy the Mandarin Duck's problem. Mandy lived in the South Asian forest with all the other ducks. But all the other ducks were not Mandarin ducks. They were the regular kind of duck, like the kind you see in the lake or in a pond at the park. There was not one other duck on Mandy's side of the forest, and there was no question of her going to the other side of the forest with all of the other Mandarin ducks. She didn't even know how to get to the other side. On Mandy's side of the forest live all the regular types of ducks. They had come from a big Australian lake, but the lake had gotten polluted and was making the ducks ill, so they swam to the South Asian forest, where the biggest, best lake of all was, and crowned it their home. But it was also Mandy's home. Mandy did not mind sharing, but when all the other ducks started being mean and nasty to her because of what she looked like, she wished they had never come. Mind you, if everybody had put their rubbish in the right bins and not used so much plastic, this problem would never have been created. Anyway, one morning, Mandy woke up in her cozy nest and decided to head down to the lake for her morning wash right away. She didn't want to go near the other ducks anymore. When she went down to the lake for her morning wash was usually when she had to face them. So as quickly as she could, she dusted off her feathers, hopped out of her nest, and began waddling along the muddy, grassy ground in the direction of the lake. But she soon realized that she was too late. All the other ducks were already waddling down to the lake in pairs or groups. The other ducks always went to the lake in either with one or more of their friends. Mandy didn't have any friends, so she always went to the lake alone to have her morning wash. At the lake, the other ducks started wading into the water carefully and ducking under the water to wash the tops of their heads. Mandy thought that way was boring, so she climbed on top of the big rock and splashed into the water careless, spraying water all over the other ducks. "Oh, Mandy!" all the other ducks yelled. "Sorry," Mandy whispered quietly, quickly putting her head under the water. It was cool and refreshing under there. Mandy wished she could stay under there forever, but she knew she couldn't. So she resurfaced, finished washing herself, and hopped out of the lake. Right now, Mandy felt like being alone, and she knew exactly the place where she could do that, in her secret place. Her secret place was behind the big rock that she had jumped off. It was a good spot for sitting in after having her morning wash. It was quiet too, so Mandy could think clearly. So Mandy climbed up onto the big rock, checked that nobody was looking, and jumped down into her secret place. The sun was shining in exactly the right spot, the ground was smooth and dusty, and the big rock was warm against Mandy's tail feathers. Mandy sighed happily as she settled into her secret place and began to think. Why are all the other ducks so mean to me? When I ask to join in their games, they say they don't want a weird duck like me playing with them. And when I ask them if they would like to come to my nest for a play, they say they have already got normal friends to play with, not silly ones like me. And even the grown-up ducks ignore me and are rude to me. And the teenagers are nasty to me too. They take my things and rip up the things that I made in craft school when I was just a little duck. Mandy sighed, now remembering she already knew the reason everybody was so nasty to her. Her feathers were wild and multicolored. Her beak was bright orange. She was clumsy and loud and splashed all the other ducks by accident. But as you all know, Mandy really is a nice duck. It's just that she's a bit different, that's all. Anyway, Mandy's tail feathers were dry now, and if she stayed sitting in the hot sun for much longer, she would get sunburned. So she hopped back up onto the big rock and quickly jumped down onto the warm sand. All the other ducks, ducklings and grown-ups were starting to head back to their nests to make plans for the day. They had formed a long line, leading away from the lake. Mandy noticed that Allie was at the very back of the line, chatting away to her huge group of friends. Allie was the meanest, most popular duck out of all of the ducks, and she was friends with every duck in the whole forest, except for Mandy. Allie stood tall and was as mean as she could be to Mandy. She called her names, she took her things. She spread mean rumors about Mandy. She told everyone to be rude to Mandy and completely ignore her and not invite her to her nests. She even yelled out the mean names she called Mandy to everyone, and her group of friends started chanting them, and as all her friends chanted loudly, Allie would give her a mean, sly look as if to say, "I'm the boss of you." It made Mandy want to cry, and she did cry some of the time in her secret place where no one could see her or hear her. "Oh no," Mandy thought. "Allie is going to start teasing me and calling me names if she sees me. I have to make sure she doesn't." So Mandy trailed along behind the lion, darting behind rocks and bushes so that Allie would not see her. But just as she was quickly rushing over to a clump of water reeds to hide behind, Allie looked over in her direction and saw her. Mandy's heart sank. She was doomed. Allie smiled her mean, sly smile. "Well, well, well, if it isn't Mandy Mullet," she cackled, "and I think you know why I'm calling you Mullet. You look like some kind of weird fish. Maybe you should go live in the ocean with all of the other fish, or then again, they'd probably tease you too." Allie laughed and held up her perfect fluffy wings to be slapped. Two of her friends slapped them with their own wings. "Just leave me alone, Allie. I'm really not in the mood to be teased, and plus, you don't have to be mean to me all the time," Mandy sighed. "Is that all you got?" Allie snickered, rolling her eyes. They nodded back. Then Allie said, "Come on, girls, let's all go back to my nest. I've got a new toy made out of mini jungle vines and sticks, and for lunch my dad's serving me gourmet bread." And with that she threw up her wings, spun around in the other direction, and began walking away, a group of friends quickly following behind. Mandy tried not to feel too upset. She knew that Allie had said and done some much meaner things before, so she really shouldn't be worrying about it that much this time. So she put on a brave face and began waddling back down to her nest. Every time she went to her nest, she had to pass Allie's huge mansion nest. It was in the trunk of a tree. The tree had two holes in the trunk, one on the very bottom and one on the very top. If you went through the first hole, there was a small area with a winding staircase in the corner of the room. If you went up the staircase, you found yourself in Allie's stiff, neat, comfy, strong nest. And if you went around the nest and around all Allie's perfect toys and games, and went through a hole on the other side of the room, you were on a beautiful, big veranda made out of polished, sanded birchwood and very fine sticks, thick and thin. Mandy had heard Allie boasting about it 100 times to her friends, although she had never actually been inside the house herself. Mandy didn't really feel like looking at Allie's mansion nest right now, so she hurried past it and soon came to her own nest, which was stiff, hard, messy, and uncomfortable. It was behind a bush that the other ducks all said was actually a nasty, spiky weed. Anyway, all Mandy felt like doing was sleeping. She didn't have anything else to do but sleep. And she was tired too. Facing Allie always wore her out quickly, so she snuggled into her nest and was soon fast asleep. Mandy woke with a startle. She shook her head and jumped to her webbed feet. Mandy tried to work out what had woken her so suddenly. She usually only woke up like that when something was really wrong. And then she smelt it. Smoke! And she could see trees burning down. But Mandy knew where she had to go. She had to get to the lake until someone noticed and called the men in big suits that came in huge red trucks and put out fires. So Mandy started waddling as fast as she could down to the lake. But on the way she heard a cry for help and looked up to see a small duckling in a tree on a very fine veranda. She looked really scared, and then Mandy realized it was Allie. Allie was trapped on her veranda and the tree she lived in was burning down. Even though Allie had been mean to her, Mandy knew she had to do something to save her, and the tree would have completely burnt down along with Allie by the time she got a grown-up duck to help. Plus there was no one else nearby, and Allie was too small and frail to fly down. She didn't even know how to fly yet, so Mandy would have to do it herself. Mandy could fly quite well, but if Allie was also a bit burnt, she would need some water to cool her down. So Allie picked up a plastic bottle lying next to a deep puddle and scooped up as much water as she could with the plastic bottle. Then she flew up to Allie's veranda as quickly as she could. "Mandy Mullet, what are you doing here?" cried Allie. Mandy ignored that Allie had called her another mean name and replied, "I'm here to get you to safety. Are you hurt?" Allie looked at her wings. They were a bit red. "My wings hurt. I think it's from the heat of the fire," she told Mandy. Mandy poured the cool water on Allie's wings and then instructed Allie to hop onto her back. Allie did as she was told. As the fire was starting to reach the veranda, Mandy took off and then flew them to the safety of the lake. As soon as they landed, Allie hopped off Mandy, brushed down her feathers, and ran up to her mother and father duck. They had been on the other side of the forest for the day and hadn't known where Allie was. And that was the moment everything changed. Allie stood on the big rock and got everyone's attention, and she told every single duck in the whole town the full story of how Mandy had saved her. And everyone clapped and cheered and whistled and hugged Mandy happily. And after that, things really started to change. Allie realized that even if you were ugly and clumsy, you could still be really nice too. And you could be a real hero as well. The bushfire had been put out, and Mandy helped Allie to rebuild her nest and move it behind a blackberry bush instead of the weed. And as Allie's dad rebuilt all of Allie's expensive toys and other things, Mandy helped Allie rebuild a cozy nest and move it behind the same blackberry bush. And everyone wanted to take Mandy down to the big lake for their morning washes. There were even fights over who was going to take her. So Mandy usually ended up going with everybody who wanted to go with her. And after they'd had their wash, they'd sit in Mandy's secret place that Mandy had told everyone about and was no longer a secret. Everyone liked talking and sitting there together while they dried off, especially Mandy and Allie. They had become best friends. But just remember, it doesn't matter how different you are or what you look like. What really matters is what's in your heart and being kind to others. The end!